You're listening to Drinks and a Movie with your host, Rudy. Spoiler alert.
Drinks and a Movie podcast. Everybody, thanks for tuning in and checking out this new episode. This will be both video and audio, so you can find this one on the YouTube channel. This is a kind of a bonus episode with Eliot Rockett, the cinematographer of X and Pearl and Grimm and the Innkeepers and a lot of other great movies and TV shows. We did an episode with him that was released on Halloween, and this one right here is a continuation of that conversation. Eliot was a really great person to talk to. He was like just really awesome and super open. And once we ended the episode, we just kind of hung out and kept chatting. And luckily, my friend Adam, who was helping run camera for me, left one of the cameras rolling. So we've got some audio from that. And then we just hit record on all the other equipment and just started going on like a whole other episode. So this one is a very candid conversation. You'll even hear Adam jump in and ask some questions as well, where we just get a little deeper into the working relationship between cinematographer and director, as well as cinematographers and gaffers, you know, what's important and how that relationship works. Talking about new lighting technology and different types of tools and, yeah, a lot of other stuff. It was a really interesting conversation. And again, just very candid, where we just kind of hung out and kept chatting and just started recording again. So there is a little bit that we had to cut out just because he talked a lot about a certain part of working on some films that we didn't want to put out and make public. So just being respectful of his wishes. So you will hear a little bit of a jump cut at times. Another part of it is the first half or the first third of the recording was just straight from the audio off one of the cameras. So it's not going to sound that great. I did my best to kind of EQ it and juice it up to sound good. But it was a while before I kind of realized that we were going to keep talking and I hit record on the audio again. So just bear with us that the first third audio is going to be a little bit rough, and then it'll improve as we get deeper into the conversation. But I hope you enjoy, and thanks for listening. And please rate, review, subscribe, share, and thanks again to Eliot Rockett for coming down to Monty Bar and spending time with us. Again, really great artist, cinematographer, and just an all around great person to chat with. So thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, man. Hell yeah.
There's the talk for like nonstop.
No, that's great. I can just keep it. I always have to be careful not to remember, like, all right, there is an audience for this. It's not necessarily just me right now. But
yeah, it's funny because I have no sense. I mean, like, just like I'm not a social media, I'm not a podcast listener.
Right.
I don't know. But it always seems just fun to just talk to people about this stuff. You know?
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean,
who's not? You know, who doesn't want to be asked questions and then just listen to it?
Yeah, no, I just like to. I just like to learn about it. Like I'm trying to make it in this whole cinematography game, so it's always like also good for me to just get information from people and see, all right, what are you doing? How are you lighting this thing? All right, I like Lycos, you like Lycos. I'm on the right track, you know.
Yeah. You know what? Like some of my go-to, right? And I think this is a go-to for so many cinematographers. Like one thing you never forget, unless it's like the rule always, is shoot into the fill side.
Right.
Always. So
yeah.
But and then what that means, if you extrapolate that into like a sequence, right?
Yeah. Is
like you've got to like massage the sequence and make sure like the director and everybody's on board so that like it's fill side to fill side. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that you don't end up somehow getting screwed and run into with the light on your back. You know what I mean? That is like, weirdly, if you just do that, like with 90% of things, they will look good.
Yeah.
You know? And then there's of course times where it's like, oh, well, you know, this person's standing right at the window and we're going to do this shot and it's going to be this front light thing and you're going to, make that work in its own particular way. But, to me, like, especially like when you get into like the TV world and stuff like that and like things where you're, like it's a lot of dialogue driven and stuff and like that. It's like being able to preconceive like the coverage, get the director on board with what that makes sense in terms for you, because directors often are like, well, we'll just have them sit over, no, and you're like, wait, this will totally fuck me if you do that. And so you got to kind of like that whole like relationship and making sure you can kind of work the, like when you know scouts and stuff, it starts way early, like, okay, we're scouting this location, it's like, oh, the director wants somebody sitting right here and the other person sitting right there, and it's like, oh, well, we're just going to end up like bam, right, into this. So on scouts, it's like, even like I find often in the TV world, it's like I'll let them take the lead, but then I'll kind of try to like massage it into like, well, what if we use this booth over here? What would you think if we did it like French overs, so we were looking, the background became, the bar instead of like the black hole in the back corner or something, So being able to like preconceive where that camera's actually going to be in terms of that sequence for like, all of the setups that you're going to do, you'll be able to like increase your odds of success a lot, because that's all it is. It's just about increasing odds of success. It's not about like winning for sure, And
I imagine on that level, like, do you ever run into situations where you will do a scout and kind of decide on a certain, I guess, way of shooting, and then on the day suddenly they hit you with, oh, we want to go this
all
or
the
that.
time, all the time. Yeah, like in the TV thing, it's like you end up working with a lot of directors of like, like those two skill sets I was talking about.
Yeah.
A lot of them will be really good at the one where they like are the skill set for getting the job, and kind of weak at the one of like the actual directing on set, And so, but often, you're dealing with people that got a lot of ego in the game too, So it's like, you can't just kind of like force it to be a certain way, because you got to kind of cajole it around and make it seem like it's their idea, maybe. Or, I mean, it's just so much. There's a lot of politics.
Yeah,
there's the craft. Like, you got to be good at. You got to know the craft well enough so that like you know the decisions you're gonna try to make. Where you're gonna try to get yourself to, because you know what's gonna work on a craft level. But then you got to, on a personality level or whatever, you got to figure out how it is that you navigate, all these different people. And, all this shit like, oh, we don't have time for this. There's no money for that. You can't shoot in this location. Oh, this person, that's off limits, blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, we can't put a condor over there. No, we can't, location's telling you like 2 days before you're shooting giant night exterior. No, we didn't get that. Sorry. It's like, what? This fucking total normal shit,
Yeah.
So.
Is there like a particular, like, do you work with the same gaffer all the time? Is that like
I try to. There's some people that I really, really like, but the way also the cinematography thing is like, production companies are willing to take a DP places, but then you got to hire locally, like try to get, so I've become over the years, really used to just dropping into a place, meeting a bunch of people, and that's a whole nother game of like, getting control of the crew, on some shows, like the first week or two, like I'm just spent because I'm spending all my energy just getting everybody, herded in and rounded up and on board and, working for me instead of like doing their weird fucking thing or whatever it is, especially in LA, like,
Is that where you kind of hurt the most?
Yeah, because it's a big market, and everybody has the opportunity here of like moving up, and that's great, and like everybody should, right? But like when you have a camera operator that's like, a weird frustrated DP or something that like doesn't, and you're like, I just need you to do this for me, and great about, but you've been an operator for 30 years, so like, just be an operator.
Yeah.
Don't like, I mean,
Yeah, you're good at it.
You're good at it, yeah. And the part that you're not good at is when you're not being a good operator and you're doing something else, But then, more power to people that want to get, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to move up and do something else, great. When you're doing the thing that you're doing, please do it just do that and whatever. Tell everybody you want to be doing something else, but just do still try to do the thing you're doing that you don't want to be doing. Do it well instead of just fucking off or whatever, or sabotaging or whatever.
That brings up a question too. I mean, for you, did you work your way up through like electric or operation,
No.
or just
I was
straight
like one of those
DP?
super irritating like film school people who like because I shot all these film school shorts, and had like that kind of success with that. Like I kind of made this decision. I was like, and for a lot of years it was harsh. It was like I was like I don't want to be an AC. I just want to shoot stuff because I'm into it, and so I just suffered through 20 years of like poverty. Just
All right, I'm 10 years in.
Yeah,
almost there, halfway.
Yeah, and there's different like in LA too. Like I was also in like I started in New York, but I moved to San Francisco. And I was in San Francisco for a long time, in a super secondary market, and like. It's totally different because the opportunities, like here, you can go be an electrician or you can be an assistant or something and learn a lot because you can get on a whole bunch of jobs, work with a whole bunch of different people, and like it can be a real valuable experience. Hopefully you don't get locked in. Like what happens is everybody gets the golden handcuffs. It's like they're making whatever, like they're $150,000 a year being an assistant, and they're like, well, if I'm going to go start DPing, I'm going to have to DP things that are like freebies and stuff, and I'm going to be poverty. I can't afford my mortgage, and I live in LA, blah blah blah. So and now I lost track of what even I was saying, but
I relate to that so much. Like I'm in the corporate world and I'm stuck. I feel stuck. Or at least like I'm shooting in the corporate world.
Yeah. So. Well, that's what when I lived in San Francisco, and I made this. I didn't want to move to LA. I was went to film school in New York, and we moved out to San Francisco. It was a great time in San Francisco. But like, over the course of 10 years there, I was like, I can see the trajectory of my career. I'm doing what I will do. It'll be great. I'll live in San Francisco. I'll be the guy that does this forever. And then what I ended up is like, broke up with my wife, and I was like, well, fuck it, I'll move to LA and like see what happens then.
Massive change.
Yeah, because you can get and I mean even for me now, it's like not being a horror movie fan, right? It's like I don't want to like necessarily get pigeonholed into just shooting horror. I love working with Ty, and I think we're making good movies, but I'd love to. It's like there's always that thing of like. People see you and they're like, oh, well, you do that, and then it's weird because like the TV thing, it's like, oh, well, you do TV. So you can kind of do any genre of TV because it's TV, but like people don't look at like a TV show that you did that's not like a horror TV show and translate that into a movie that isn't horror because it's not a movie. It's like, I don't know. I mean, it's not totally terrible like that, but it's like, it's definitely like you always got to be kind of trying to make sure that like, you're presenting yourself or something, or you're like, trying to open the other door somehow or something, Is
there any kind of genre or style that you want to shoot that you haven't been able to do yet professionally?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's that so much because I don't. I'm more interested in just what I consider good movies.
Right.
Like in terms of the movie thing, I just want to shoot what I think are good movies, and it could literally be any genre, or it could be just a esoteric art movie or whatever, like I went through a long period of doing a lot of music videos and stuff, and I was like, that was a great training ground back in the day, where it was just like, well, let's try this technique with this. Let's just do this because it'd be cool. Because it doesn't tie into a narrative so much as it is really just that's cool, and so you can do it, But really, when it comes down to narrative stuff, I'm real focused on like what I think a good movie would be, and that also is like it's like script, director, production, reality, like there's a whole bunch of elements that you're hoping all come together, and that's hard because it's like you don't have a lot of choice in the things you get offered,
When because you mentioned earlier like with gaffers and like having to get local crew wherever you shoot, like New Zealand was X and Pearl, right? So you had to get crew there. I guess how deep is that collaboration with the gaffer? Like, is it very much you are very clear on this is what we're doing, or
well, that's
do they
why
have
there's
a lot of
some
say
people
in
that
it?
like I'd love to always work with because
Yeah.
I don't have to be that way.
Right,
You know what I
okay.
mean? And then there's other people where it's like, yeah, you're gonna be, and that's sort of like a skill you have to develop if you're gonna get out, you know, and be taken places to do things. Like you got to be able to land and figure out, okay, I'm gonna hire this person, but it's gonna be me telling them exactly everything that we're gonna do. You know.
Right.
And that's, I don't want to be that in that position because I'd rather have somebody who, just like I want to be value added to the director. I want
Right.
somebody, a gaffer that's value added to me, you know, or camera operator that's value added. But you don't always, you know, whenever you're into a situation, it's like, even if you're in LA or whatever, it's like maybe the people you know they're not available, or, you know, you got to find somebody new or whatever, you know. So you kind of always have to be good enough at the craft that like if you end up with somebody who's just going to be the person who does what you tell them to do,
Right.
that you'll be able to get it done. Sometimes you don't have a choice, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Is you don't have, and you don't know always too, if you're going to some brand new place and you're hiring all new people and you're like, you know, the UPM is like, well, I've got these names for you, and you've called out to all the people that you know, and they're like, oh, there's a guy down there who you should talk to so and so, and like, you know, you have like 4 people you're talking to, and you're like, well, it's gonna be one of these 4, you know, like it's not like I can, you know, have 100 candidates, and you know, you got to kind of make a, you know, your best educated guess as to like who's gonna do the right thing, you know, who's going to be the right person.
Yeah, no, that's always interesting to me because sometimes I've fallen into some gigs where I've been the gaffer. I don't consider myself a gaffer I don't know shit, dude. Like, and I'm talking like really small gigs and web series, student films, or maybe a little corporate thing. But then the DP, quote unquote, will like come up to me and be like, I don't know anything about any lighting or any of this stuff. So yeah, and so
because apparently DPs have 2 skill sets as well.
But no, and I mean, and yeah, that shows how like small my stuff is. But or you know, they will be film school graduates and work and do some stuff, but then they don't give me anything. It's just, all right, we'll light this, and it's all me. And it's like, but can you help me out here? Like,
yeah,
it's you're the person, and now.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about with a director that's sort of like looks at you like, well, what are we going to do with this? And it's like, oh my god, okay,
yeah,
you know, I'm not the director, but yeah, I can hold your hand through this. I can, and as some like I've joked in the past that like I was going to make a T-shirt that like, you know, had a big circle with like a kind of graphic tow truck thing, and it was going to say, "Director's tow truck. We bring you home when you break down." You know, but
yeah.
You know, it's not any. You're not going to end up making good stuff doing that. You know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe you luck out, but it's like that's, you know, you want these like creative collaborations with people that are like that. Everybody is kind of one mind about where you're going, what you're doing, and it's of one mind about what it is that you're doing, not some fucking thing about like, oh, I got to do this for my reel, or I'm, you know, trying to get laid or whatever. You know, it's like, God, you know, you would think like everybody's.
Everyone knows that cinematographers are deep, like it, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, you know.
The rock stars of the.
It's so not. Like, for me, it's like, I hear about shit that's going on, and I'm like, how do you even have time for that? You know? I don't know. Yeah.
No, it's interesting. Like, it took a lot of those experiences for me to really start learning, like, oh, okay, so a gaffer has so much say in everything. If there is that working relationship. I mean, obviously, like with your experience where it's always different people, but so I'm always curious to hear about that. It seems like that relationship is just as important as, you know, the director to the cinematographer. It's like,
absolutely.
The DP to the gaffer as well. And
you're hugely relying on that person. Right. You know, and it's 2 separate things. It's like you're relying on them for a technical thing, right? That's like really important. That like as a DP, you probably don't even have all of the knowledge to even take over that. Like, you know, I can't tell you how to run fucking DMX universes and shit like that, you know? I mean, you know, and like power and all this bullshit, you know, like, you know, so you got like, you know, they're ordering equipment and they're like dealing with things. But then on the other hand, like there's the aesthetic thing, like, you know, beyond the technical thing, it's like, are you a person who's going to have like it when I tell you like let's try to do this or let's do this, are you going to get it and be able to go out there and start doing it, and I'm going to look at it and I'm go, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, or am I going to be like, no, it's like this, it's like this, it's like this, you know?
Right.
And so when you find a person that's reliable on both levels, it's like, this person's gold, you know. But it's hard because, you know, I mean, like, you know, some people are down here working constantly and they have their same crew and they just bring them, you know, show to show to show and everybody working all the time. That's not me. I live in Portland. I'm taking the rest of the year off and, you know, whatever. Basically a hippie. And, you know, so it's like, you know, there's a few people like Justin Dixon was on, I met on Snowfall. I'd take him anywhere, you know, but he just fucking did Paul Thomas Anderson,
the Licorice Pizza?
Licorice Pizza. And then he's off on the, what's her face in Georgia? Was she the woman that did Wonder Woman? He did.
Patty Jenkins?
Yeah, he's doing the Patty Jenkins movie. And I'm like, Justin, will you be done in time to do the next movie with Ty? He's like, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'm like, yeah, right. But and also I just met the gaffer I met on Perry Mason, Ross Dunkerley. Amazing.
Yeah.
He's great too. Like, okay, I got two people in LA that like, you know, Ross did Bullet Train and he was like, he's been in the electric department forever. He was like the best boy on like I mean, it's just, you know, he's got this resume that's just out of control. It's like amazing. Like, and he's great. He's a wonderful person, you know. But it's like, damn, you know, that's two people in 30 years or whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
dang, man.
I mean, there've been a lot of other people that are really great, but like, I've gotten to the point where it's like, wow, these people are really remarkable, you know. And I feel really blessed to be able to like have them around.
Do you feel like you're pretty good at I mean, can you say you're setting up a shot for a movie and everything? Are you good at knowing exactly what the tools are that you're going to need in that moment? Or is there a lot of trial and error? That seems crazy to me that people can just be like, all right, magic cloth with the LED bouncing off it, I got LED back there, whatever, you know what I mean? Or do you know, have to,
that's a thing that like...
Just comes with time?
Yeah, it comes with time, but it also comes with like, you know... What I'll do is I'll suggest something. Like when I'm working with people like Justin or Ross or whatever, I'll be like, what if we did no. And they'll be like, nah, I think we should do no. And I'll be like, cool. Because they'll usually have a better idea of like the fixture or whatever that's going to like really nail it, you know? Once I say like, this is what I am thinking, you know? And so... I will defer to somebody like one of those guys. Like, you guys have a better idea of what, because that's what you do all the time, and you're really fucking good at it. I can make it work. You know what I mean? I can hack my way through it on some level with somebody who I just have to tell what to do. You know, but probably it'll be done a little more elegantly or something with somebody who is really top shelf. You know, but it's still. It's a kind of lead and then add to sort of relationship. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully it's like I'm setting I'm like saying like, we're going for this kind of a thing, you know, and then they're like helping make it happen, you know? But, you know, but also like sometimes it's like, you know, Gaffer will turn to me and be like, what if we did da-da-da? I'm like, yes, excellent. Let's do that, you know?
Yeah, that's always crazy to me that some people just kind of seem to know, like they have so much experience that they know I need specifically a 4K tungsten here or whatever the case.
But the other thing that happens on the show is like you have a package, right? And you're bringing the same shit with you all the time. So after a while, it's like, oh, we're doing this kind of a thing. It's that. We're doing this kind of a thing. It's that, you know? And then you go move to another show and it's like there's a learning curve of like, oh, we're going to use these pieces of equipment and these tools and we're going to get this effect with those. And then we're going to kind of, you know, and then it kind of gets dialed in and you go down the road. Cause it's not always going to be the same things.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And also some gaffers have a propensity or a desire to use certain things. You know what I mean? They're more comfortable with certain kind of fixtures or whatever than others or per se, or like them better because they can do the things they like to do or whatever. So you kind of got to be open to that a little bit too.
What's some of like is there any like new gear out right now that you
I live in Portland, dude.
No, but you're making movies. I'm watching your movies at the Chinese theater.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
you're
doing it.
You know, I kind of keep one eye open on a couple of blogs and stuff, but I'm not like, I'm not a real gearhead kind of person,
Right.
you know? And, you know, the shift into the world of like LED fixtures has been a fundamental change in a lot of ways in terms of lighting, you know? And they keep getting better, but they're I think it's plateaued a little bit. Like there isn't anything like there's a million new fixtures, but there's not a lot that are like actually kind of a new thing. You know, like a Stereotubes. That was a good example. Like when a Stereotubes came out, I was like, that's a new thing. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not a Kino Flow. It has like that kind of a quality, but it's fucking battery operated and radio controlled, and like you know you can stick it under there and there's no wires. And oh, amazing! You know, you got to look at it instead of like looking at every new thing. You should look at like the kind of classes of what things are and within and what they do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, there's like, you know, Fresnels and open face lights and blah, 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 blah. And they kind of lump into like a category. Right. And then there's some standouts in that category. You know, like the sky panels kind of like stood out in like that kind of a category, you know. And for a while, the like light panel 1x1s, when it was the very beginning of like the LED, like they were like, that's the go-to for a while. But you know, it's like flow tube style light, right? Yeah. Well, okay, Asteras are now like, you know, there was like prior to that, there was like MacTex and there was like Quasars and there was, you know, all this other stuff. It's like, but this one in that category is kind of the winner. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Right.
And so, you know, and like the aperture, like, you know, that's another like the chip on board kind of open face thing, like the Hive lighting is doing an aperture, and that's sort of like another kind of like, oh, here's a little move in this direction that makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? You know, so for whatever kind of like result you want, you're going to look at a certain kind of category of equipment, and then within that category of equipment, you kind of go like, oh, these are the ones that seem to be working well for people or whatever. And then there's other things that become popular that I'm just mystified by, like the DS Sputnik, those square things. I was like, I tried to use it. I don't get it. I don't get what you do with this. You know? It's square and you can't put barn doors, and it's like, I don't know.
So I'm curious about like setting up like DMX board like situations. Like, what is a situation where you will set up DMX, and where's a situation where you won't? You know,
where what it's become in my world, which is obviously of a certain kind of level of production. Like, there's always a board. Like, there's a board on location. It's weird if there isn't one. Okay. You know, even if it's like doing very minimal, it's just sort of like this just comes with us because there's so. Well, and see, that's another thing about like gaffers. Like, for instance, two people I was just talking about, Justin, everything is on radio. Like, everything's wireless with Justin. Ross, he runs cable to everything, you know? And it's just like a different style. But he'll run like that smart cable stuff and there'll still be a board, you know? But he's just like, the radios aren't reliable, so he'll run cables to everything. It's so fucking a lot of work. But yeah, like, you know, but for me, like coming like a TV show, like 8 days or 9 days or whatever, in an episode or whatever, and you're going to come into a place, be expected to like shoot 6 pages with some crazy stunt and all this stuff, and like, you know, a bunch of dialogue and stuff, and like you're going to have the pre-riggers come in, you know, swap out all the tubes with Astera tubes, and like, you know, put in all these things that are going to go through the window and stuff, and they're going to bring it all back to the board, so that like when we walk in, it's like we can start dialing it in. You know, we can start like, let's take that down, let's warm that up, let's do this, and it's just like, and it's, you know, well, yeah, but you know, and you know, and it's like, hopefully you got like a good enough plan that you can, you know, come in and like have, you know, 50% of it kind of in place. That, you know, I mean, that's just the reality of the work, you know, because it's like the expectations of what you're supposed to get done in a day just become huge, you know, and so you have to be able to do that kind of a thing.
When did DMX start showing up?
You know, it's been around longer than I've been using it, for sure. Okay. You know, when I was on Grimm, wireless DMX is more new, and I'm not by any means an expert on this, but like on Grimm, all our stages were DMX'd, right? And you know, you know, you'd walk in, all the practicals, you know, number 37, bring it down 10 points or whatever, but we wouldn't necessarily bring a board out to every location because we were at that point, and this is almost like 10 years ago or whatever, especially in the beginning seasons, the wireless thing really took off with the LED thing because battery operated and the low voltage, and they're all DMXable on the head now, you know, so like, and there's all these radios and stuff. So that's kind of gone hand in hand from what I've seen. And again, I'm not like an expert on this, so other people might be like, no, that's not how it went at all. But from my experience, it's like, when we started using a lot of wireless of LED fixtures that had wireless capabilities already built in, and or the DMX plug that you could just slap the wireless onto and give it a number, that's when it started being like universal.
You ever have like any interruptions to a shoot day because of wireless mishaps?
No, it's weird. Like the lighting wireless stuff has, in my experience, been super solid. I mean, I've had some problems here and there. And this also speaks to like the position of the dimmer board operator has become like this really important.
Right.
Because if you're looking at the gaffer and you're like, can we get that taken down? And they're like on their radio and like walking away from you and nothing's happening. You're like, you know? But other people are like, they bring the radio up and they're number 2 and it's like, troop, it goes, and they're like that, you know what I mean? Because like the dimmer board, and it's weird position because like as a DP, I kind of barely even see this person, you know? They like always stick up their board somewhere really far away, really in private, so they can hang out all day long, reading their book or doing whatever, and just punching their numbers, you know? But they're hugely, they can make it
like iPad setups where they're
I've had people who will swap their board to an iPad and bring it in for whatever reason, right? That'll happen. And or also, I find it hugely helpful if we can always get a video feed back to the dimmer board operator, because then they can be watching what's going on and they can, like, it's not a surprise to them that 134 needs to come down because they're looking at it on the feed like everybody else is, you know? But that's the thing, like, I mean, I don't know, in like a low budget world or in a smaller indie world or something, I mean, I would still, but see, my world has distorted on, even though I'm not like doing like huge studio movies, I am in a world where it's like, okay, I'm dealing with like, you know, $7 to $15 million budgets on any particular project. So there is money for that. You know, if you're doing, I don't know, if you're doing like a $1 million movie or something, or a $500,000 movie, I'm surprised if you're going to have a dimmer board operator unless it's like your friend.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Man, technology in this whole game, just in the last decade alone.
Yeah.
Wow. Shit, I was dialing in this backlight in the first 30 seconds on my phone.
That,
you know what I mean? Like,
these cameras, it's insane.
No, and I was talking to a dimmer board person. They're like, it's only a matter of time before yokes are also motorized.
Oh man, that
you know
makes
what I mean?
sense.
So,
that is the next step. Wow.
Get rid of the fucking ladders. You know, like that light that's up there. It's like, and you know, that being said too, the movers, the general term of movers, right, which are the like came out of the rock and roll world of the like the LED fixtures that are like with the motorized yokes and the pan tilt and the changing things, right? I've just sort of been starting to experiment with that, and I'm way behind the curve on that. There's people who've been doing that for ages, you know. But that's like one of these sequences in Perry Mason. I was like, we were in this enormous room. Ceiling was way the fuck up there. We're going to be all up. We had tons of work to do. I was like, oh my God, we should just like load this ceiling up with movers. And we'll just, we're never going to see that ceiling. It's way up there. And we're going to like light the whole thing. And I just lit I was like, this is cool, you know? And then we were using them on Snowfall a little bit, like in Condors. Because also when you're working with a Venice and you're working at 2500 ASA or something, like, you know, an LED mover 150 feet away has still got plenty of oomph to give you like an edge or whatever, you know? Right. And that's amazing, you know? And prior to that, there was like on Grimm, we were doing things with LRXs and Area 18s and Area Max and Area movers, you know, which are, you know, essentially a remote control thing for like an 18K. But like those ones that are like the rock and roll style ones, Like, you can change color, you can change there's a built-in diffusion, there's all this kind of stuff. So, all kinds of crazy stuff. So, and that, the only reason that hasn't fully gone everywhere is that like a lot of them are not good color temperature wise, and like they have like the colors.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, if they're not like common.
There's ones that are better
color
than others, but that's coming down the road. I think like whether it's those companies improving their LED performance or it's companies that do film-based lighting realizing they should move into that form factor, I would guess is probably there's going to be some marriage there, because it all in the end it all is driven by like we need to do shit faster because the expectation is we're going to do more. Like you send a guy on a ladder or up in a lift and change the gel and refocus the light. Okay, the only reason a mover is better is because it happens faster. Right. It's just like
I guess that's the thing too, right? Is like then how many like G&E positions is that cut out right there?
Ask the producers, but they would love to think. But the thing is, like, then it's all pre-rig and it's all like, in the end, the labor force doesn't generally change that much. You know what I mean? As much as they're like, this new technology is going to wipe out half the labor force. Nah. Yeah. It's like when you actually get out there and you do it and you're like, why are we going so slow? Because we only have 2 guys. Because you thought it was going to go faster. No.
Yeah, man. Craziness.
Anyway. It's been a pleasure. You got a little bonus. Post interview.
Thank you for listening to the Drinks and a Movie podcast. You can now find us on Instagram at Drinks and a Movie Pod, where we'll be posting photos from all the various films that we discuss. You can also email us at drinksandAmoviepod@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.